Alrighty, so this is my very first hashtag Step Up Story interview as Miss Georgia's
Your
Outstanding Teen.
first.
I
Well,
know, as Miss Georgia's Outstanding Teen. I've done a lot in the past, but so it's very exciting to have our very special guest today. This is Olivia McMillan. A lot of you guys probably already know and love her so much. She's a former Miss America's Outstanding Teen. So crazy. And she's a graduate. Is it Julliard School? Not Julliard College.
yeah, it's the Julliard School. It's
Juilliard School, right. So,
weird, yeah.
Olivia, I've always just looked up to her so much. I feel like she's very familiar. Like everyone knows here in Georgia in the Miss Georgia family. So I've only heard amazing things about her. So I'm so excited to talk to you today, Olivia.
I'm excited to talk to you too, and I'm super happy that you've joined the sisterhood. As we were just saying, loved watching you compete. Heard so many amazing things about you, and so I'm glad I finally get to talk to you live and sort of not in person, but live.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so before we begin, just tell everyone a little bit about your background, where you come from, your family, and I know you're in Georgia right now, but where are you usually staying and
I
living?
am. Yeah. So I'm a former Miss Georgia's Outstanding Teen, as she said. And I am also a former Miss America's Outstanding Teen 2015, which is crazy. Time is flying. And after that, I went off to college in New York City. So I'm a graduate of the Julliard School. I finished there in 2019. And I currently live in New York City. I live on the Upper West Side now.
Oh,
Um, but I'm home visiting for my brother's 21st birthday. Speaking of time flying. So I am in Georgia currently, but I am normally a resident of New York City. And yeah, my family, a little bit about me, I'm adopted. So I'm biracial, and my brother's also biracial, and we're adopted by two white parents. So that's a bit of a unique family dynamic, family situation. My brother, one of the coolest people I know, but he suffers from autism and bipolar disorder and several other processing challenges. But seriously, he's such an amazing human being, and he's really overcome so many obstacles. So he's really just truly one of my favorite people. And yeah, it's just me and him, me and my brother, and then my parents. It's my family dynamic. And I grew up in Georgia. I grew up in the Macon, Warner Robins area. So yeah, but I'm a New York City girl now.
I love that. I feel like New York City obviously is a dream location for anyone and everyone. So I think you're living out that dream. That's so cool.
I love it. Thank you.
So that's actually, I had no idea that your brother is someone with autism. So a huge
Yeah.
part of my social impact initiative, I actually started a mentoring organization for little kids with special needs. It's called Hearts of Gold
Amazing.
Society. So I've always just it's a pretty core part of our community here in Johns Creek. The special needs community is actually pretty large, especially in the Chinese American community. So
Really?
yeah, it's pretty unique. So ever since I was a child, I started volunteering with church. And then we would visit this boy named Michael. He had cerebral palsy. And then we formed a little youth group and we would visit him. And then my passion just for working with people with disabilities started out then. So that's so cool that we kind of have that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow. Yeah. No, that's really amazing. It's definitely I don't know. It's you'd be surprised how many people don't actually interact with or have never interacted with someone who has a disability or who has special needs. And I consider myself lucky to have grown up around somebody who sees the world differently, and who has found really creative ways to function and to make it through everyday life. And it's really inspiring, and it's definitely humbled me and taught me empathy. And it's, yeah, I love that you're doing outreach with it because it's definitely something that more people should be exposed to. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about what you've learned about having your brother with autism. I feel like, well, for me, I don't really have that really personal connection. I just always just loved service work with people, but having that such a personal connection to it. Tell me about that.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely a challenge growing up, because he unfortunately was violent due to some of his needs, and so he actually had to go away to a care facility for about 9 months when he was 6, and that was really hard for our family. You know, he really struggled. He really struggled, and he couldn't make it in a traditional school setting. So my mom actually quit her job and homeschooled him all the way up until he finished high school. So a lot of sacrifices were made to make sure that he had the care that he needed. And so, being completely honest, as a young person, as a teenager with, friends who tried to understand but couldn't really understand our family situation, it was hard, and you go out in public and he would have meltdowns, as we called it. He would have kind of violent outbursts and these like outbursts of aggression. And that was challenging to have people look and stare and misunderstand. So in that way, it really taught me that you never know what's going on with people. First of all, no family is perfect, but with our family, there was no hiding our dirty laundry. Do you know what I mean? It was so obvious. And it definitely thickened my skin. And I think now him and I have an incredible relationship. He's grown so much. And he's, the aggression is behind him, and he's really grown, and our relationship has evolved so much. But I think it's definitely increased my empathy, increased my patience, because you do have to have a lot of patience. It's not always easy. And also like being able to communicate with someone who thinks differently,
Yeah.
is really important as well. Being able to really communicate. I feel like I have the skills growing up with him to really communicate with just about anybody. And I do credit him with helping teach me that, and again, just to be around somebody who sees the world differently, and has to experience the world differently. It just like, we're just all so different. I think it's easy to get stuck in thinking that everybody thinks like if you, but to be around somebody who literally processes information differently than you do, it's a unique experience. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you brought up communication. I feel like that was probably the biggest learning curve for me working with kids with autism. For me, so our organization is entirely online. So
Okay.
we're able to reach students. We're established in 13 states, so nationwide, which is so cool because
Incredible.
but finding a way to keep the kids engaged and keep them focused on looking at a laptop screen for an hour long
Sure.
was probably the biggest learning curve. So finding a way to communicate with them and to make the curriculum that we taught them specialized so that they could understand what we were trying to
Yeah.
say. And like it was just the flow of communication is different when you have to adjust.
Different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, like, wouldn't you say it's definitely increased like your empathy and your
Yeah,
ability
most
to be
definitely.
patient and
Yeah.
to think outside of the box, which is a lot of what you have to do as a title holder, and situations that you're throwing. And I've seen so many title holders who clearly don't have experience around people with special needs. And I found that a lot of what I did, whether it was my platform or not, I was around a lot of people with special needs. We would go to different care facilities for people with different challenges. And I feel like I was really able to engage with them because I wasn't afraid of them. I wasn't sitting there judging them because I had that personal experience. And I've seen title holders go into those situations and be very uncomfortable, visibly so, because they'd never experienced that. So yeah, I think it definitely helped me with being a title holder to have had that experience with my brother.
Yeah, most definitely. So speaking on the lines of communication, so I actually am aspiring to be a communications major in college.
Yes.
Um, I like to say I say that, but I really don't know exactly what I want to do yet. Um, so as a former title holder, what do you feel like was the most important part of getting your word about your social impact initiative out and communicating to people on a variety of different levels? I feel like that's such an important skill that um,
Yeah.
title holders need to have.
Man, yeah. And first of all, you don't have to know what you want to do now or
Right.
or even 5 years from now. But man, that's such a tough question because I feel like also when I was a title holder, things are a bit different with social media. So I was a title holder in 2015, and obviously like we had Instagram and things like that, but social media wasn't to the scale that it is today, where like you've got influencers with millions of followers and you're promoting like protein shakes on Instagram. Like I don't think that we weren't necessarily there yet.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I don't think I had as much stress as some of the title holders do now, with trying to, I don't want to say compete, but trying to be on the same level as these influencers. I think it's harder to be a title holder today because back in the day, but prior to social media, even as a title holder, I think it was easier to get people to listen. And now you've got influencers who people are listening to. So it's like, how do you reach people as well when there's so many voices that are out there?
That's
Um,
true.
so that's something that the influencer wasn't necessarily as big as it was when I was doing it. So that's kind of a learning curve that you guys have. But I think the biggest thing was just getting out in my own community. Like, sure, doing things nationwide is important, but I think people forget that taking small steps can affect big change, and there are people that are in need right in your hometown. So I think for me, starting in my own community and building from there was really helpful for me. It's easy to get lost in the big picture of like, I have to change the entire country, and that's great, but you have to start small and you have to start somewhere and you build upon that. So I found that doing things in my own community and getting the word out in my community helped to spread things further, because once you get the word out to a few people, they start spreading the word, and it goes on from there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things I've also learned is just like networking. I feel
Yes.
like for a lot of high schoolers, that's not a skill that you learn. Well, I hear people say until college, until you get into the workforce.
Yeah, it's rough.
But yeah, I don't want to think about that just yet.
Don't think about it.
But I think having this entirely different community in the Miss America organization and finding people within there that could help you and build you up was something that I really found important. I've been competing for almost 5 years now. So like I've really been able to build those connections and to find people that I can latch onto and people that help me build me up. So I feel like finding that community here was something that really helped me grow.
Absolutely. And credit where credit is due. I mean, I have had more opportunity through the connections that I've made through pageants than I have at the Julliard School,
Oh,
which is insane. Like, that's crazy to think about, but it's very true. I mean, the Miss America network is vast, and it's full of people who genuinely want to help you. And yeah, those are good connections to make and to foster, whether you compete in Miss or not, doesn't matter. Like, those are relationships that you can keep for truly the rest of your life, which is what's, so special about MAO and MAO teen.
yeah. Yeah. So can you tell everyone a little bit about your social impact initiative during when you were competing and maybe how it's evolved now that you are not a title holder anymore? And yeah.
Yeah, so my social impact, or my platform, when I was competing,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, what is it today? Is it platform for you guys still?
It's social impact
Social
initiative.
impact.
But
Okay.
it's such a mouthful that I sometimes just start saying
No,
platform.
no, 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 yeah, platform. We all know what we're talking about. It's the same thing. My platform slash SI when I was competing as a teen was the National Sibling Support Project, which is essentially like therapeutic activities for the siblings of a kid with special needs. Because I found growing up, there were a lot of resources for my brother who had autism, and there were a lot of resources for my parents, but there weren't a lot of resources for the other children in the house. And it can take such a toll being a sibling of anybody, and not just someone with special needs, but if you have a sibling with chronic illness, like, that child is going to require a lot of attention, and sometimes your emotional needs aren't able to be met, not purposefully, but because there's another child that really needs immediate care and immediate attention. So the Sibling Support Project was all about focusing on those siblings and giving them the skills that they needed to communicate their needs through like play therapy, essentially. And a lot of what I did with that was really educating people about the National Sibling Support Project, and also visiting different groups around the country, and seeing what they were doing. And actually, I did some of the play therapy. I mean, once I found out about it, I was too old to partake, because I think it goes up to like 14. But still, even being there as an observer, I was amazed by that work. And so really, I spent the year trying to spread the word. And the way that that's evolved now is actually my day job. I am in the arts, but my day job, as you have to have when you are in the arts when you're just starting out, is I am the authorization coordinator at a company called Sensibilities, which is actually based in Georgia, but I work remotely, so I'm able to continue that in New York City. But it's essentially a pediatric therapy center for children with special needs. So we offer speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, in a pediatric setting for different for kids with different disabilities. And I've been working there for 2 years as basically the liaison between the insurance companies and this company. And my brother received speech therapy from there, and I interned with them in high school. So it's a company that means a lot to me personally, and it's work that I really believe in. So that kind of work isn't something that's left, even though I'm not competing anymore.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
what does play therapy look like?
So play therapy, essentially like different team building exercises, different games that kind of help talk about different emotions. Like I'm struggling to think of exactly what we were doing, but it was a lot of team building things, a lot of like communicative
Yeah.
games that were getting kids to like describe different toys, and just so basically just trying to increase your like emotional intelligence and to be able to describe what you're feeling and what you're seeing and what you're thinking. And there would literally be like circle time where kids would go around and talk about different hardships that they were experiencing as a sibling of a kid with special needs. So it was really, yeah, it was really amazing that it was able to cater to a younger age group. And I wish I had had it, all through growing up. It would have really helped.
Yeah. That's so cool. So one
Well,
of
you
the
should
kids
look it up.
yeah. So one of the kids I mentor, well, it's their sibling duo. So their name is Josh and Jonathan. So Josh is does not have autism, and then Jonathan does have autism. So I've actually never. So their dynamic is really interesting because
Yeah,
oftentimes, Josh has to be kind of the caretaker, and sometimes when the mom is busy doing something else, and when we're in our sessions, Josh kind of has to like sit next to Jonathan and kind of be there for him because keeping his attention. And it's so interesting because the brotherly dynamic is different when
yeah,
one child is, and I actually think Jonathan is older. The kid who has autism is older than him, but
yeah.
because he has autism, it's kind of switched, the older younger sibling.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely take on a bit of I mean, depending on your personality, but I think oftentimes in families you're kind of forced to take on a bit of a caretaker role, which at a very young age it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of a kid, and it makes you grow up pretty fast, and I know for myself it became like, all right, this sibling requires a lot of attention. So I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that, my grades are on track and I'm not getting in trouble and my parents don't have to worry about me because they've got all of this to worry about. So I found in myself, it kind of created this like perfectionism complex that I know a lot of kids who have a sibling with challenges end up developing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely has an impact on your development as well as a sibling, even though you're normal functioning, and that dynamic, it's interesting. It definitely, it's cool that you picked up on that. It is different for sure.
Yeah. Well, to kind of segue into another topic, I want to kind of talk about your just school in general.
Yeah,
So, a lot my social impact initiative, it's called hashtag Step Out, Step Up, and it's all about establishing a growth mindset as well as encouraging teenagers to step outside of their comfort zone. So, I feel like when I talk to kids at school, I want to start with how to relate to academics because I feel like, I actually went to a pretty competitive high school, a very, very actually competitive high school. I think we're ranked like number 8 in the state of
did you
Georgia.
go to a charter school?
No, it was a public school.
Wow.
So yeah, I feel like even for public schools, it's even harder if it's competitive because there's so many kids.
Sure, sure, sure.
So I feel like for me, it took me some time to really be able to be comfortable having a growth mindset. I feel like when I was, freshman and sophomore year, I really felt like when I had like a bad grade or like a low grade, it really lowered kind of my self-esteem in general,
Sure.
because academics were such a heavy focus at my school. So tell me a little bit about, I guess we could talk about how you were able to pursue music and find that passion as well as still maintaining, I guess the kind of more core classes like math, English, throughout your school years.
Sure. It's interesting. Yeah, I definitely developed a passion for the arts at a pretty young age. I found that, especially having a brother with different challenges, and there was a lot going on in our family dynamic, it was really an escape for me and an outlet for me. So I was involved in theater at school from a pretty young age, and I was in choirs and things like that. And yeah, it was definitely difficult to manage having rehearsal every day after high school, and then focusing on academics, but for me, I knew from a pretty early age that like I was going to go to college for the arts. So in a lot of ways, I do think I prioritized that. And not that I let my grades fall by the wayside, but I think I was pretty lucky in that I was able to figure out what I wanted pretty early.
Yeah.
So my education was essentially figuring out, okay, what do I need to have to be competitive to a performing arts school? Like, what are the grades that I need to keep? And so I think for me, being able to keep all of that on track and managed was mostly about having a dream and being like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is my dream. What do I have to do to accomplish that dream? I think it's hard to motivate when you don't have a goal. So I feel like goal setting is really, really important.
Mhm.
But I really struggled in college. I went to college for classical voice, and I got to Juilliard and I could not read music, which is pretty rare when you're going to a music school at that level. And I was in classes with people, violinists who had been reading music since they were 4. There was a girl I went to college with that literally started reading music before she was reading like English. So that's like the kind of people that I was put into a classroom with. And I went from being an honor student in high school and really being a pretty decent student to having to constantly be like, I don't know. And I did have to work 10 times harder in college to keep up my grades because everything was focused around music. So in college, I actually didn't take like math and science because in a conservatory setting, you only take classes pertaining to your degree program. So I found it really hard. And I honestly think that the key to keeping up in school and making sure that you don't fall behind is like asking for help when you need it. And
Mhm.
that seems so obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me because I was used to being able to handle it on my own and being able to study and figure it out. But it got to a place where like I didn't understand the information and I needed to ask for help. And for me, that was a bit stepping out of my comfort zone. I think it's tricky to ask for help when you don't know something or to admit that you don't know. And the better I got at that, the better my grades got, right? Because I'm asking for the help that I need. I'm admitting that I don't know, and people are always willing to help you if you just admit that you need help.
Yeah.
So I found that was crucial to me getting through college was asking for help when I needed it.
Yeah, I feel like for a long time that was me too.
Yeah.
So I like to tell a story as like my kind of failure story regarding school. But so my sophomore year of high school, I took a course, AP World History. And for a long time, I've voiced myself as like a humanities person. I've always thought like, yeah, social studies came pretty easily to me middle school. But in high school, it's completely different. History is at a whole nother level of hard.
Sure.
So I took the course. I started the course, and then I took the first 2 tests. I almost failed, and I've never experienced, I guess, failure in academics like that.
Mhm.
Um, as because it's such a competitive high school, like getting a B is literally like an end of the world for a lot of students. So almost failing 2 tests was crazy to me. So I actually dropped out right after that. I dropped out of the course and I took on level world history. And I feel like at that time I really did have a very fixed mindset. I relied on just me and myself. I
Mhm.
just like read the textbook and took notes, but it really just wasn't working.
Yeah.
I think I love that you brought up just asking for help because I feel like I didn't reach out to a lot of my peers even. I was even afraid to do that because after the first test, I was like, I can't like I was just kind of trying to hide from it. I was like, I can't tell my friends I almost failed a test.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's like so embarrassing. And then I can't even imagine going to my teacher and asking for help because I guess wanted to hide from the fact that I wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
So I feel like that within school is probably one of the number one things, is just making sure you surround yourself with resources and people that will help you and people that will make you a better student. So I love that you brought that up.
Absolutely. No, I relate to that so much. I think again that like perfectionism complex that I think I had growing up. I wanted to know everything and I didn't want to need help. And I think a lot of people are like that, especially women, man, because you as a woman we are given less opportunity to fail, right? Like we have less chances to fail. That's just the way that it is, unfortunately. And so I think a lot of women, especially women of color, feel
Mhm.
that failure isn't an option and you don't want to ask for help and you don't want to reach out when you need it. And I got to the place where I literally couldn't not ask for help because I like reading music is essentially like learning a new language. And it's like if you went to school in France and you didn't speak French, and all of a sudden you're taking tests in French, and you're like, what do I do? You have to ask for help. So I was forced to admit that I didn't know. And it ended up being the best thing to ever happen in my life, because now I have a much easier time, even in just normal conversation. If someone's talking about something and they're like, oh, do you know this? I can easily say now, like, no, I don't. Tell me about it, and without feeling like stupid or something, because there's nothing wrong with not knowing. Just ask, and someone will tell you, and then you will know.
Hmm. Yeah. So you seem like a very, very busy gal. You're managing all this stuff at one time. What is like your number one advice for, I guess, balancing everything?
Yeah, I don't know. There's yeah, I'm like, how did I do that when I was back in high school? I don't know how you guys do it. I think you just kind of get through it, right? Like you just take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
I think for me the biggest thing was sleep, and that seems so basic. But everybody has different ways that they manage time, whether it's like keeping a planner, which I did. I find that having a planner, not on my phone, but one that I write in and I can see in front of me exactly what I have to do, and then actually physically crossing it off when it happens, that really helps me. But that might not work for someone else. But I find the universal thing that works for everybody is making sure that you get enough sleep. Like
Yeah.
sleeping as much as you can. And for you too, I mean, I know your week at MAOT will probably be very busy, like taking naps whenever you have the option to take naps, and like trying to sleep as much as possible. Like sleep is so vital to to functioning. So I think that's the thing that, especially when you're really young, like that's the thing you start to like forget about. That's the thing that falls at the wayside, and that's should be the number one thing, is making sure you're sleeping.
Yep. That's my advice for me right now because my sleep schedule is not right.
Got a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, like balancing that actually was something that did take a lot of time for me to be used to, is just balancing everything. Besides pageants, I am a full-time ballet dancer. Not full-time. I dance ballet almost every day. I've been dancing ballet longer than I've been doing pageants, so that's been a priority in my life for a very long time. But when I started competing, I kind of had to adjust my priorities.
Sure.
Especially like this time right now, I'm not going to dance competitions. I'm preparing for Miss America. It's a different type of, yeah, just different priorities at different times. So I feel like, yeah, that is also a way that I had to balance my work, school life, and pageants.
Yeah, well, some of I remember a woman said in college, I can't remember who said this to me, but she was like, you can have it all, just maybe not all at one time. And I
Mm.
think that was really helpful for me to think about as well, like because very similarly, like classical music and preparing to go to college and doing voice lessons and things like that were a big part of my life as well when I was competing. And it was odd having to adjust, and even having to adjust for what you're doing in competition, because obviously what you're doing in competition for pageants is not what you're doing, you know when you're like really doing ballet. Like it's very different. So yeah,
Yeah.
I found that you can do it all. You just have to have time management and realize that like you can't maybe do it all at one time.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's a
Um,
lot.
so regarding failures and challenges, I guess this it's a hefty question, but what has been the biggest challenge I guess you have faced so far? That's like
There's so many.
usually it's like I talk about for competition and pageants, but like I guess it's harder for just life in general.
Well, yeah, I feel, yeah, I feel pretty far removed from pageants like at this stage in my life.
Yeah.
Um, biggest failure. This is kind of lame. I'm gonna give like a small one. This is lame, but it's true. It was a failure. There was a time in college where I basically every week we had a certain amount of coachings where we would coach music. And we had a performance coming up. So it was a coaching that I was going to have with multiple other singers, like my peers. And it was with our Italian diction coach, who also coaches diction at the Metropolitan Opera. She's a big deal. She's an amazing woman, and she expects you to be prepared. And I came in and I didn't know any of my music. Was not managing my time well and didn't know any of my music. So I show up to this coaching with two other singers who are perfectly prepared, and I don't know my music, and we keep having to stop because I don't know it. And she finally was like, what do you do? Like, not only are you letting yourself down, like you're letting down these two other singers in this room who are prepared, and you're wasting their time. Like you're not just wasting my time, whatever, I'm paid to be here. Like you're wasting their time. And that really stuck with me. I mean, I really, yeah, it's so important to be prepared in the things that you do, especially when you're doing something with other people. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be prepared. I was feeling overwhelmed, and I didn't prioritize my time well. And so that was definitely a failure that I learned from, and making sure that you allow time to get done what you need to get done, especially when other people are involved. Yeah, you should always be prepared. Always be prepared. It feels lame, but like that just was such a like scary moment when she's like, "You're letting down the team," and I'm like, "I'm
Yeah.
sorry." So yeah, definitely a failure.
That's good advice. I think that I don't know. Well, I guess for me, it's mostly the most challenges I feel like do come with competing. And I feel like for a long time, being responsible, I guess, for me was something that I had to really manage. I feel like for a lot of, so I am an only child. So a lot of like my life before pageants was like my parents would manage it and my parents would like schedule my time. But after I started competing, a lot of it, when I got advice from like coaches or like I got advice from my board, it was directly to me. So I
Hmm.
had to prioritize, I had to manage, I had to be prepared, be really independent. So I think that's definitely a skill that, I mean, we all have to learn to be independent at some point in life, whether it's early or late. So that's definitely something I'm going to bring with me to my future in college, especially in college, on my word.
Yeah, I pageants prepare you for sure. I had never realized, this is unrelated. I had never been on a plane before winning Miss America's Outstanding Teen.
Oh,
And the first time I
really?
ever got on a plane, yeah, it was when I was 17 flying to Atlantic City for Miss America. It was the first time I ever flew.
Oh,
And
wow.
I spent the rest of that year obviously traveling all the time. And 3 days after my high school graduation, I went on a 7.5 week summer tour where we were in a different state every couple days. And I mean, that kind of time management and preparing for travel and making sure I was packed correctly and knowing like I'm wearing this to this event, I'm singing this at this event, and keeping all of that straight. I mean, gosh, yeah, it was a lot. And being a full-time student, as you well know, yeah, it takes a lot of self-motivation and like independence. I mean, it teaches you independence if you don't have it, because I didn't necessarily have it, and I learned real quick. I remember one time I was flying somewhere, I was flying to a different state, and I had to be there that night for a performance or something, and the flight got canceled. And so I was like on the phone with the Miss America's Outstanding Teen travel agent, like trying to find a flight to get there, by that performance that night. And like I'm running through the airport, like trying. She had to book a different airline, and yeah, like situations like that I had never had to be responsible for. All of a sudden, I'm alone and I'm in an airport and I have to figure it out, and that really changed my life, having that kind of responsibility in a good way. I mean, I've carried that with me for sure into adulthood.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. So, what is you say the last time or like the biggest time you were really outside of your comfort zone?
Well, honestly, competing in pageants, I was outside my comfort zone. Um, yeah, I mean, I started competing as a teen, having never competed before in the Miss America organization, and I didn't know what to expect. And I was a chunky little person of color, and I didn't see myself represented in pageants, and so I felt out of my element for sure. Um, but I think most recently I've kind of made the transition in what I'm looking to get into in the performing arts. I've always done music, and I love music, but I've realized recently that it's really not what I want to do professionally. And I've really started to move more towards the film and television world. And I've started working on different film sets around New York City. And that's kind of where I'm starting to put my energy and trying to get involved in that world. And initially it was really scary. I mean, I had never been on a film or television set before in my life. I had no idea what to expect. And going there the first day, I was very, scared and uncomfortable, but it ended up being the best experience of my life. And it's something that I've continued doing. There's actually an amazing woman, my favorite thought leader right now, Brene Brown, and she's a shame and vulnerability researcher. And her big thing is living in the discomfort. And I think we as people have a tendency to try to move away from messy feelings, right? Like we don't want to be sad. We don't want to sit there and be angry. So instead of moving through those feelings and working through them, we cover them up.
Yeah.
And if we would just sit there in the discomfort for the 10 minutes that we're uncomfortable, we could have amazing experiences afterwards. So something that I'm really trying to take on and trying to work on is living in the discomfort and being okay with being uncomfortable and being afraid and being anxious about something new and doing it anyway. And I
Mhm.
think we need to do a better job of helping young people feel uncomfortable, feel okay with feeling uncomfortable, because that's a part of life. It's a healthy emotion.
Yeah.
And we need to feel uncomfortable and do it anyway, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Being comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Finding ways to feel safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So that's really like a huge part of my initiative. So when I go into like schools and I speak to kids, um, even just small steps, like raising your hand in class, talking to a new person at school, like very, very small things that help you slowly expand your comfort zone, um, is yeah, so important for young people especially.
So good for the soul too. Like, but
Yeah,
also it's a sense of accomplishment, you know,
yeah,
when you try something new. And yeah, it's such a great feeling and it's so important. I mean, I think so many people don't follow their dreams because they're afraid of those few moments of discomfort, when in actuality, those few moments of discomfort are worth the experience, you know? And it's so much worse to not do the thing you want to do because of fear, because you'd end up having regrets and all of that. So it's so much better to just live in that discomfort for a few minutes, you know, until it's okay.
yeah. Okay, so I just realized that this is another Zoom meeting where there's a 40-minute limit.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay, okay.
so we can quickly I do want to ask you one more question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
of
can I just
course.
log off, log back right back on, and then we can
Okay, so should I leave it?
yes, I'm just
Okay,
gonna end it really quickly
okay,
and use the same link.
okay.
Okay, we're back. So well, I guess two more questions. I just want to say really
No, no,
quickly.
no, go ahead, go ahead. We have time. I texted my boss. I have some time. So you do
Oh,
you?
okay, great.
Okay.
Well, I am the biggest film and television movie buff. It's literally my interesting facts and recipes. I
Ew,
can talk about movies and film for days. Uh,
amazing.
so that is so cool. So just a fun question. So what
Yeah,
was can you tell me what the movie was you were working on and
yeah.
if
I've
any exciting projects in the future?
Sure. Yeah, I've been working so far only on short films. So like films that you can enter to like festivals and things
Yeah.
like that. And that's been kind of my introduction into the industry. I've been a production assistant on I think five or six, four, five, six different projects, and it's been amazing. I mean, I ultimately would love to be an actress. I'd love to be behind the camera, and eventually maybe do some writing or direct. I mean, whatever. I think sky's the limit. But I would love to be an actress. That would be the dream. And I was really thinking about going back to film school, but everybody that I talked to was like, "Don't go back to school. You know, you have a performing arts degree. The best way to learn is to really have hands-on experience being on a set." So I've been, as I said, a production assistant on different short films around the city, and just kind of learning the terminology and learning the many different jobs that are involved with creating a film, both in pre-production and post. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how much goes into the filming process. And
Yeah.
um, as a person who's only been on the performing side, I really have so much more respect for people who are behind the scenes, because you know they're the first to arrive and the last to leave, whereas the actors are like the last to arrive and the first to leave. And it's really given me so much appreciation for the people that you know make the big decisions and make all of those small details, you know, come to life. And so yeah, it's been really exciting. I'm also such a huge film and TV buff. I've always had a passion for it, and so I feel like a kid at Christmas when I'm like on these sets watching.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I'm just trying to learn. I'm really just trying to learn as much as I can about the industry. And being a production assistant is like kind of the way to start doing that. And hopefully I'll be able to start auditioning here for some things pretty soon. So that's like the direction that I'm headed in, but no major features yet. Like I wasn't, I haven't like helped out on like a Marvel movie or anything. I wish, that'd be awesome.
I know. I think that's so amazing. I think that in itself was just a
Thank
testament to the person of you are, really segueing into a kind of different part of, I guess, entertainment and that you're able to take that step. even though it was unfamiliar waters for you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been crazy. I mean, because I think people when they think of me, especially in pageants, have always thought of me as like, oh, the singer. She sings, that's her
Yeah.
thing. And I love to sing. It will always be a part of my life, but I don't want that to be the way that I earn money. I don't want to be a professional singer. It takes the joy out of it for me. It really does, because it's something that is so special to me and so personal that making money from it is very, yeah, it's, and going to school for it and having to work on that every day was really difficult. So yeah, I'm really stepping away from that. And yeah, this was definitely like me stepping outside of my comfort zone. And
Yeah.
it's hard too, because with singing, I had built up a body of work. I have been singing since I was a kid, and I went to school for singing, and I went to a good school for singing. And I feel like with film, I'm literally starting from the bottom and working my way up.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. At 25, I turned 25 this month, to be starting something completely new. But I'm so excited about it, and I feel like I'm where I really should be. Even though I'm like fetching coffee and doing different things on set. I'm not a big wig or anything like that, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it, and I love having the opportunity to grow and learn. And yeah, it's really been fun.
That is so incredible. That's so
Thank
cool.
you.
I had
I'm
no idea. I mean, I also thought that you were still going along the singing opera route. So it's so cool that you were really able to find your passion and love within another industry. It's so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel lucky. I feel really lucky to have found this, and to have found good people who are willing to help me. And
Mhm.
yeah, and I ask a lot of questions. I'm telling you guys, you have to ask questions. Like, I am so annoying the amount of questions that I ask, but you have to,
Mhm.
And yeah, it's been great.
So, what is like your next short term and long term goal regarding, doesn't have to be regarding film, just regarding life in general?
Life.
Yeah.
What is a short-term goal? Well, I love your platform slash social impact, because I really, in the year of 25, I turned 25 on July 9th, which is like,
Today's
what?
birthday.
Yeah, thanks. And I really want to step outside of my comfort zone more, because I find the times in my life that I have, it's really been a great and positive experience. I've never regretted trying something new.
Mhm.
So I want to continue in that vein. I want to keep doing things that interest me, that I maybe was too afraid to do before, whatever. I want to try new things. I want to try everything. I want to go everywhere, And so I really want to travel more, and do things that scare me. I mean, not in an unhealthy way, but you know what I mean? Like things,
Yeah.
things that could maybe cause me discomfort at first. But yeah, I definitely want to try some new things. So that's a short and long-term goal. And long-term, like what I'm really working on right now, as far as film and career goes, is really starting to get myself ready to start auditioning for some different things. And it's a bit of a long process. There's headshots, there's all these things that you have to do, and reels and all of that. So I'm really starting to work more seriously towards that. And that will be kind of a long-term goal as well, because it takes a while. It takes a couple of years
Yeah.
to get yourself situated. And there's no telling how long that will take. But yeah, I'm in it for the long haul. It's what I really want. So I'm prepared to stick it out.
Hmm. That's incredible. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
so to wrap up for our last question, this is mostly for me. Um,
Yeah.
what would you say is your biggest advice going into Miss America's Outstanding Teen, and just, yeah, the mindset, preparing myself, for me, preparing me for
Yeah. Yeah.
college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, try to soak up as much of it as you can. I had so much fun at both Miss Georgia's Outstanding Teen and Miss America's Outstanding Teen. I mean, there's nothing that bonds you more. Like, it's such a bonding experience. And like calling other girls by their state. I mean, I still call the girls that I competed with, like, Nebraska, Arizona, like, and that it's great. It's a wonderful experience. So really try to like be in the moment, like try to be present as much as you can. But I think the biggest thing for you and for anybody who's competing is to, I mean, start as young as you can, trying to figure out who you are, trying to figure out what you like and what you don't like, and the kind of person that you want to be and the kind of person that you don't want to be, and try everything and explore, and develop a mission statement, figure out what you believe. And I'm not saying that you need to have yourself figured out by 14, 15, 16, but I am saying that as soon as you can start and start showing up as that person, whether it's pageants or work or whatever you're doing. It's so important to be authentic. And you know what? Some judges may love you being authentic and some judges may not, right? Like you may win and you may not. And no matter what, at least you showed up as yourself, and at least you can be proud of the performance that you gave because you know you were true to who you are. And I think that's something that young people are not encouraged to do enough, is to figure out who the heck they are. And I think that's what life is about. I don't think it's ever over, right? I'm 25. I'm still figuring out who I am. I think we're all on this journey for the long haul, right? But I think as early as you can start and really start that work, do that and start showing up as that girl, start showing up as that person that you are and that you want to be, start presenting that, and focus less on like, what can I do to be what the judges want? What can I do to win? Doesn't matter. Truly, I'm 25 years old. I was Miss America's Outstanding Teen. That was great. I competed in Miss and I didn't win. You know, it was a good experience, but I didn't win. So I've been on both sides of that. And honestly, it's so okay either way. You know what I mean? Like win or lose, it's so okay. And you can take what you need from that experience, and you can learn and grow from that experience no matter how it goes. So yeah, I think biggest thing is like staying true to yourself and being authentic and being okay with the outcome regardless, you know.
Yeah.
Which I think you're probably already set in doing that, but that's
Well,
my advice for anyone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely something it took time learning that
Sure.
well, I think interview in itself is really, you have to be know yourself so well inside and
Yeah.
out, because literally, I mean, it's about you. You're the
Yeah.
only one people are asking questions of. So I think that in itself, I really had to like dive deep and like self-reflect of like, what are
Yeah.
my beliefs, like what motivates me, like what do I love to do? And then, I mean, I think that took me probably not until after my first 2 times competing at Miss Georgia. That definitely took time for me to really understand. And after that, I think that's what made interviews so much more easier and so much just more conversational, because
Yeah.
I was able to just talk about what I love to do and just about
Yeah.
myself. Yeah.
Which is amazing that you figured it out. And because yeah, it's really hard. I think it's hard at any age to be authentic, and also like to answer the kind of questions that they're asking you, and to know that whatever you're saying, you know, the judge across from you may not agree and may not believe what you think, and you have to be okay with that, right? Like, and I also think about, you know, myself at 16 when I was competing, and I was MAOT at 17, and like what I believed back then and what I spoke about with conviction, you know, there are some things that are very different than what I believe and think now. So I think we're always evolving and changing. And, you know, even back then trying to figure out what I believed versus what my parents believed. And, you
Yeah,
know,
that's a
all
big
of that,
thing. Yeah.
right? It's hard. It's so hard. It's such a like, and for you, especially going off to college, like that will continue to, you know, grow and change even more.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think interview can be so hard as a teenager, because it's like, what do I think? Is this what I think? Is this what my parents think? Is this what my school thinks? What my church thinks? Like, what do I think? And I think as much work as we can do to figure out what that is, as early as we can do it, the better, you know, as you say. And it's so great that you figured out at least who you are right now, right?
As of right now, I future Rebecca, I don't know what she's gonna be like just yet.
Sure, sure. You don't have to think about that. You can just think about who you're going to be in August.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much
You're
for coming on
welcome.
with me. I think I just sitting here just learned so much, and so I can't imagine what it is for all the audience members listening. So
You know
thank
me a
you
little.
so much. So
I
yeah,
don't
thank you so much for just being so inspiring and
Oh
so
man, thanks.
such a role model that a lot of us look up to.
Well, thank you very much. I'm totally a has-been at this point, so it's nice to know that you even care to talk to me.
Oh, of course.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so out of it. So it's nice to talk to you and to hear about all the amazing things that you're doing. And seriously, I'm so glad that you are our Miss Georgia's Outstanding Teen, and that you're part of the sisterhood. And I cannot wait to see what you do in August. You guys are in Dallas, right?
Yes, we
So
are.
that's new too. I mean,
I
hey,
know, completely different across the state, across the nation location.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be amazing, and I can't wait to see how many amazing things you do in Dallas.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So good to talk to you.
You too.